Rodriguez is back in the home run derby. He announced it earlier, right before Ryan Rowland-Smith and I started the show. Ryan Rowland-Smith in for Michael Bumpus today. Julio, I am very, very excited to see in the home run derby, though, Ryan, of course, this doesn't mean that he's going to be an all-star. Do you anticipate that he might still be voted to the game?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, for a couple factors. Number one, it's at T-Mobile Park, so you're going to have more of an emphasis on Mariner fans voting people in because they're thinking about the All-Star game way more than if it was in Pittsburgh or something like that, right? That's number one. Number two, I think with him, regardless of the numbers, and it's not like every person, I'd say 90% of people who, when they click on that ballot to fill it out, how many times they do it per day, if they do it once or they do it 5 times, whatever the limit is per day, whatever. It's not like they're going into look at his Baseball Savant page and say, oh, well, hold on a second.
Wait a minute, this chase rate.
Yeah, exactly. 90%, and maybe 10% they might get on Twitter and try and get retweets for their knowledge. But for most of the time, everyone remembers his home run derby appearance last year. They remember the interaction during the game last year, and they're going to go, "Yeah, Julio Rodriguez, he's a good player." Click. And so I think he'll get voted in for a lot of those things. Now, is he one of the best outfielders right now in regards to offense? No, but he's a superstar. MLB have sort of earmarked him and put him on Sports Illustrated and everything else, and that helps big time.
Julio is looking a little different this year. Now, I think that this year there are expectations. There were, Ryan, of course, expectations when he was the top prospect and he was entering the season and had a slow month of April, but then absolutely took off and didn't look back. And people were like, this is the face of the franchise. Like, you really tapped into something here. And so when you enter a sophomore season with that kind of excitement and anticipation, and now other teams know how to pitch to you, things change. What are some of the differences you've seen between last year's version of Julio and this year's?
Well, I think a couple things. If you want from a swing analysis and a in-game kind of analysis, a couple things that stand out to me. First of all, the ground ball rate. He hits everything hard. We know that. He's so good at making really hard contact. But the ball on the ground, for example, ground ball rate in the month of May, he got out of that ground ball because he's susceptible to that, where all of a sudden everything gets hit on the ground. And it can shoot through the infield, so he picks up some extra hits that way. But he went from losing that, he got down to 45%, which is good. That's good for him because, like I said, he's susceptible to hit the ball, to all of a sudden ground ball rate up to 61% in the month of June. That affects you big time, right? And then and also, too, the chase rate. So if you look at secondary pitches, he went from chasing around 30% to now 43, 44, 45% on secondary pitches. So what that tells you, a couple things. Number one, he's catching the ball out in front way more. He's at what's called an attack angle when the bat is on plane to try and meet the ball. When you catch the ball further back, it's more susceptible to go in the air. He needs to hit the ball in the air. He has so much juice in that bat. The ball gets in the air, good things happen. And so when he gets caught out in front, then all of a sudden those hands start to turn over and the ball starts to go on the ground. So he's, when I say attack angle, the way that the bat's going through the zone, he's catching everything out in front. And so with that, that's where he's susceptible to ground balls. And a big reason for that, I think, watching him do his thing, is the way he's getting pitched. Yeah. He's in a situation now where he's trying to make up for lost time, glancing up at what is he hitting, 238 or 240. And so he's just being way more aggressive. He needs to relax a little bit, know that he's so talented to get mistakes, kind of Teoscar Hernandez type, where he kind of turned it around in the last couple of weeks, get deeper in counts, and let that ball just get on him. Just, again, easier said than done, but let that ball get on him just a little bit longer. But I think he's just getting caught out in front and chasing pitches like crazy.
Now, it feels so silly to ask this because he's obviously talented, but where does he still impress you this year?
I just think that, look, and with saying all that, the thing that impresses me the most is he was getting pounded inside, right? Like fastballs in, and he was swinging. His swing rate was through the roof. He was getting off the barrel and getting some weaker ground balls. And then his ability to make adjustments to identify that and to just lay off just once or twice per at-bat, it changes the rest of the at-bats for the game. Because pitchers get like, oh, you know what, I can't go 2-0 to this guy, right? And that's what I'm talking about, just laying off pitches. So I think with him, when he goes through these kind of funks, you're going to see that it just doesn't last, because when the ball springs off the bat the way it does with him, you have that kind of that inherent confidence to say, you know what, I think I'm okay here. If I can lay off this pitch just enough. Now, if you were me swinging it or someone who doesn't hit the ball very hard, you are going to chase a little bit more because you need to cause action because you can't get deep into account. So I think with him, this is going to be short lived. I think he's going to have a big second half once he puts it all together.